Welcome to Tech Startup Stories, hosted by Natalie Binns. This is the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the B2B startup world.
Hi, I'm Natalie Binns, and after many years as a marketing leader in the B2B SaaS industry, I set up HeyGabby to support startups and scale-ups with their go-to-market and growth needs. I work with so many great founders, and that's led me to want to hear their stories and share them with others. And that's why I set up this podcast. So let's get into this week's podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's podcast. This week, I have the pleasure of speaking with Hudson Liao. Hudson is the founder of a company which has got quite a cool name. And that's my first question to you. What made you come up with the Hog as the company name?
Well, I spent the last 10, 15 years the head of growth for multiple startups. So the HOG stands for the head of growth. So that's where the name came from.
Brilliant. I love it. It's also, I mean, obviously you've got your little hog on your emoji. Is that a warthog?
Yeah. So that
Brilliant.
was too. Like, we just saved a ton of money building a logo because we just used a publicly available one. However, that creates familiarity already because everyone's seen it. So when you see the logo, like, I recognize that one. So it has some biases towards like familiarity. So people kind of are more welcome to it, and they aren't as standoffish to the brand and to the name. And also, when you call something the Hog, you kind of like remember it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
For us, like with my background, we wanted to definitely launch a PLG motion, like a product-led growth motion. So we knew word of mouth was going to be important to how it spread. And so the Hog is a really easy and funny way to kind of talk about a brand and a company. So that's kind of some of the deeper reasoning behind it. And also we wanted to humanize like technology and AI a little bit more. So for us, like, hey, did you ask the Hog? Did you talk to the Hog? Did you check the Hog? Like, those funny vocabulary like becomes into it versus like, oh, did you check Salesforce? Would sound very sterile and stale.
That's so true. I love it. It's a great name. And I didn't realize that it was an acronym as well. So you've been in head of growth roles, marketing roles for 10 years plus. But I noticed from your background that wasn't how you started out your career. Tell me a bit about how you kind of got into that from your previous kind of career.
So I challenge someone to have a more awkwardly not planned career path than myself. In college, I studied sociology and economics, thinking I was gonna go down the whole private equity world. Like that was when like Wolf of Wall Street was like so cool, and it was like I'm gonna be an iBanker. However, when I was in college at UC Davis, they had a student firefighting program, and so if you worked as a student firefighter for certain shifts, you got free room and board on campus. So that was my job during college. And then my first job out of college was with the state fire department in Cal Fire up in Mendocino County. So that was my first official job. And then after that, yeah, weird. And then after that, I was like, man, I should probably use my degree. So that's when I got into finance, and I went down the whole like equity investment, got my CFA at that point because I thought I was going to be like a hotshot portfolio manager on Wall Street. But from there, from finance, I went into fintech. That was when all the fintech technology, Silicon Valley was booming. So, okay, I want to get into this because I was like investing in public companies. Then I started investing in private companies with investment firms. And then part of investing in the private companies, your goal is to figure out why does this company succeed versus another, what's about the team, what's about that market. So it got deeper and deeper into why and how to build a good company and evaluating companies. And so that went down the fintech startup route. And then from there, I went into a biotech accelerator program because my friend, he was starting a biotech accelerator called IndieBio, which was at that time the world's largest biotech accelerator that only focused on biotech. And so he brought me in to kind of help out with the business go-to-market and consulting side, because you had these world-class like geniuses, like PhD level. They're literally in the lab trying to replicate proteins, solving cancer, creating new therapeutics, but they would not pick up a phone to call anyone to sell their product or send an email out. And I could do this. This is great. And so I started working with them, and that's where I started to understand, like, you have to like build a team of people that really liked what they do. So that was my biotech accelerator. And from there, basically stayed in the startup world, moved to other like other like tech startups, biotech startup, healthcare startups. Ran a growth agency for a little bit. And that's kind of where I started kind of becoming more known for like the head of growth for startups. And then last year, I was the head of growth for this IT company, IT software company. And I was a head of growth there at the same time. Met my co-founder, who was the senior AI engineer there. And then we were just building out new systems. This was like, last year when we were thinking about like how we use AI to scale growth faster. And then I was building out all these agents. And he was like, why the hell are you building them? Why don't you just buy them? I was like, they don't really exist, not the way I want. And so he's like, well, do you think other people want? I was like, probably. So then we started thinking like, maybe this can be a product. And so that was kind of the birth of the hog.
Amazing. Okay, so from firefighter to working in finance to working in growth, that is quite the transition. What do you think has been the kind of things that you have brought with you from that beginning? What kind of attributes from your firefighting days are still with you today?
I think is always understanding the fundamentals and understanding how frameworks and how things work. Because there's always kind of like some kind of a playbook that you need to adapt, right? Like even firefighter, you run into like a situation, you're trained thoroughly before you get there. However, you just need to be able to adapt when you're there, pick up the signs, find the signals. Same thing with like business, right? Like you're going into a situation, you have a general idea of what's going to happen, what's not, but you need to be built for adaptability and to react to those situations. The only way you can do that is if you're also prepped for it in all those scenarios and cases and testing out before you jump head first into certain things. So for me, it's always like building out the framework, understanding first principle, like what you're doing, why you're doing it, and then where are the decision points that you need to make. And then if you don't know it, where to ask for questions, right? Like in firefighting or just in any emergency situation, don't pretend to know something you don't. And being humble enough to go find the right answers from the right people, right? And that usually kind of sets you up for success. Especially like in this founder mentality, I think a lot of times that I didn't realize until you just asked me just now is the humility to go find and ask people. The best founders like aren't like just locked up in a hole by themselves. Sometimes they are, but those are very few, and you never hear about them that fail. But the ones that like, they're asking, they're helping each other, they're really building a network because they know that they don't know everything or not at that time, and they're growing and building for it.
That's amazing. And I think with the thing that you mentioned earlier about PLG and some of the challenges that you were facing, tell me a little bit more about that in terms of how that kind of led you to building the hog.
Well, it wasn't just PLG as like a product like growth motion in general. It's tougher because PLG is like high volume, so you just have a different
Mm.
client. You don't have the luxury of like hand holding and then building a relationship.
Hmm.
So you're relying a lot more on the marketing systems and scaling side of testing as fast as possible because your goal is to lower as much friction before someone like buys or signs up to your services or whatever
Hmm.
that might. So how do you use technology to basically create relationships and trust to a point where someone takes out a credit card and pays for it without ever talking to you, right? And
Mm.
so I always kind of respect that emotional commitment from someone. And how do you use technology to basically help someone through that process? And so
Mm.
that's like for the PLG side is very different from like do a true enterprise sale. Enterprise sales might take a longer, but however, once you're done with the process, you have a much clearer understanding of what they want and need, and also the relationship. Like a PLG motion, you have to make a high assumption. So you need to test your hypothesis consistently to figure out is that something that your customers want to stay with too.
Mm. And so is that the go-to-market that you guys have already started with for the hog? You're
I mean,
already engaging in that, or are you doing a bit of a hybrid go-to-market?
we launched PLG first, which is started right now already, so people can buy and sign up already. We have the thing for us, like we launched so fast, and even at this point, I don't know when this will air. I'm still embarrassed about our product. I think everyone will be as founders, because you always want to build more, push this. Oh, it's gonna be better, but our goal is like get real time feedback from users as fast as possible. Especially figuring out between free users versus paid users. They're
Mm.
also very different feedback. And so that's why like our product doesn't have a free trial, but we have a 30-day money back guarantee. So you can use it all the way to the 30th day, and like Hudson, I didn't get the value, I'm happy refunded because I want to know why you left, right? If you used it enough, paid enough, you have a problem that's painful enough for you to do it and you still left. That hurts my heart on a personal level because I don't want you to go, but it also is the clearest indication like what we need to work on next. It might not be a best fit for you. Like if you're like a direct to consumer brand that needs like 1 million users and you need an AI agent to kind of run all your ads, we're not there yet. But you have like basically finding like noise throughout, like, trying to get out of email inboxes and LinkedIn, you kind of connect with your users in a different way, usually more towards like a B2B SaaS company that kind of leans towards that way, which is where the high touch is justified by the LTV. That makes sense, right? And just for us to understand that and work with our users and customers, and then that's a meaningful feedback for us to use too.
And who would you say are your ideal customers bubbling up to be right now?
Currently, it's like lean teams that are like kind of in the B2B enterprise SaaS space right now, because like, they want to like high touch and bring on teams and then build like, like repeatable funnels and format. And they also want to get out of what kind of the original playbooks are, right? Emails and LinkedIn. Like teams that are like, okay, we need to find other channels and other ways to scale outside of these like saturated channels. Those are the teams that we're working with the most right now.
Okay, so so we're working with enterprise organizations, they're lean teams. How are you identifying those, and how are you guys building your awareness out in the market?
We're using our own tool. So it's been a little. It's like we have to, right? Like if we don't use it, we can't build business. I can't expect another company to do the same thing. So the way we do it, which is a little bit different, is basically using like social intent and social monitoring to identify when a potential customer is actively talking about a pain point or a solution or complaining about a competitor, and then finding those real time to engage in an actual conversation. So I think this is going to be the future of AI, what just in general. What it unlocked, I think, last year and up till now is speed and volume, right? Like AI has proven that you can go way faster and do a lot more with a lot less. Next phase is how you scale authenticity, right? How do you like not alienate your customer, not spam the hell out of them, and actually reach them at the right time with the right conversations for them to have? I think that's going to be the next unlock, and I think that's probably going to be where the world's going to go to, targeted like small audience marketing at scale.
Okay. So given that you're an early stage MarTech AI company, which, as we know, there are a gazillion AI companies popping up here, there, and everywhere. How are you guys standing out from all of that noise?
Number one is always going to be quality, because everyone's going to compare it to existing solutions, and then they're going to go out there and vet all 19 other ones, right? Because I've done the same thing. Every time I go to a vendor, I even like, I'm comparing you to them. Like, how are you different? You tell me how to go back to them so you can win my deal. There's also why we were so adamant about launching a PLG motion. For us, is like we either produce results that you love or you don't love. And so that's how we stand out. The tech side behind it is also like we found ways to probably the most effective and accurate way of finding customers and personas that are actively talking about conversations and filtering out noise and bots. So you're staying more efficient on that side. And we haven't even like unlocked the full mapping of like a customer's like journey or the customer's like general persona to understand like what they really care about overall. Like for me, if someone like messaged me like, oh, I know you're a 49ers fan, sorry about, them losing. If it helps out, like I can help you with, getting you a deal on something. Like if someone sent me a message like that, like, okay, this kind of creepy, but I kind of respect they did the work for it. Kind of a deal. Like, so that to me is like, there's going to be a world more of that coming. And for us to like map that out for users and customers to really understand like what their customers' overall pain points are.
So you met your co-founder at your previous company. You worked together for some time. You talked about your ideas. What was the thing that kind of got you both to quit your jobs and, do this for a full-time role?
Yeah, I mean, so we called like hundreds of people before we decided to even like pursue it not full time, like really kind of jump into it to figure out if this was really a pain point. Because anecdotally, it was my pain point, right? So that's where birth came from first, and then I was like, I'm literally trying to pay to find a tool like this. I will literally give him money, just save me a couple of times just to try it out. And then my co-founder and I have a very kind of like summer mindset, like, okay, let's try to kill this idea. Like, let's go out there and see if the people actually really want it and try to convince them to buy something else, like against the promise that we want to build. But there was good signal that like, hey, like if you deliver this, I will pay, like pretty clearly for people. Oh, that's a great signal. And then it was a timing thing. Right now we know that we're in a very kind of unique moment with AI, and that every industry and every business is on the chopping block, and everything can and will be kind of different in the next couple of years. Regardless of what happens, like we both knew that the only way for us to learn and grow and like make an impact in this industry is to build in this industry, and not to be observers. So it's like a timing thing, and also like where we just had conviction that this is still going to be a need, and a world where I see like this is going to be more and more of a need, and no one was really tackling the way we think about it.
How has that differed in terms of like how you structure your working day compared to being employed?
You basically never stop working as a founder ever, because you literally just always think about, even if you're like not on a Slack, email, and not like, I'm literally just looking at other podcasts, other newsletter, other companies, like just observing, see how else can be positioned, looking at our own onboarding. Like you kind of never like stop thinking about it. So anyone out there thinking about work-life balance as a founder, like the founder life isn't for you. Like it's just, even I thought like I could do work-life balance, but like, it just isn't. The thing is, because like ideally like you're passionate about it and it is part of your hobby. So like your hobby and your work become one. So like it becomes like the whole thing for you. And it should be. I mean, you should always want to think about it, you know? And so yeah, so nowadays like we try to set routines, because like now you're important that you have to like keep the team in rhythm, build a process, and build things that can scale and grow. But between like the co-founders, like we're just always kind of grinding.
But you're a little different though, Hudson, because you don't just have the one startup. You have
Yeah.
two. So tell me about your other startup that keeps you busy when you're not doing the other thing.
Yeah, so I have a nonprofit called Asians Are Strong, and it started during the pandemic in San Francisco, when there was a spike in anti-Asian violence and hate throughout the country. I meet some friends, like we weren't thinking about starting a nonprofit. We just wanted to do something for the community. And then at that time, in 2021, we just saw a big need for more community engagement. And so that's kind of how we kind of built it up from the ground up. I was at a different company where I was building out systems, and the growth machine was like kind of where I kind of had a grasp on it, so I could really balance the time. But now the team here at our nonprofit is getting set up too, and you lean back and forth with your team. That's why like team and the personnel, no matter what phase of company, is the most important thing that you can ever have, and the worst thing you can have, because if there's a bad team, like there's nothing you can fix about that, you know. And so then that's why like using that mentality of startup mentality that I've been in, and using and applying it to the nonprofit world, has actually helped us become very successful too.
And with all those challenges that were happening, you know, around the pandemic, and obviously politically, there's a lot going on in the US at the moment. How is that impacting business in Silicon Valley and for you guys personally?
Huh. It depends on the marketing, right? Like it'd be timing, how to say, oh man, like, so my last company, I was in like consumer health tech, like the 23andMe and Ancestry.com type of business. So you do a DNA test, you get more analysis on it. So we didn't do the actual test, but we did like, so if you took one, you uploaded, you got more analysis on different health, ethnicity, deeper research, and all that stuff. Now, when you run ads or marketing about ethnicity, people are ready, waiting to jump on you. Like you get one pixel, one color on the wrong way, or one messaging. And how how I did not see this. So one of our best ads was through an influencer, right? So like influencer marketing. So you use them to talk about like, your product and services in general, like whatever that might be. One of our best ads at that point was by a Jewish influencer. Now, when the whole Israel-Gaza conflict and war happened, it still is happening, that completely obviously tanked because like that person was being attacked, the ads were not. They started blaming us. Like that was a crazy way to kind of think about how like the marketing world does not sit in silo, and your company never sits in a silo. So understanding the context of like what your company does and how it impacts people and their lives is super important. I think Silicon Valley in general right now with AI is really what your perspective on what you think AI means to the world and how it impacts the world. And so either you're going to be adopting it or you're going to be against it, kind of. And so that also plays into what the world perceives it. Now, I think Silicon Valley has always tried to see the positive technology and what it can be. I think we're always cognizantly aware of the downsides of everything. And because I think every technology since the beginning of time has the propensity to be good or evil and is dependent on who is using it and when they're using it and how determines what the outcome is, right?
Mm,
And I think that's where I think Silicon Valley is always looking at what is the positive side. We know there's downside, but we can't even understand what the downside is at this moment in time. So
mm,
we always are more optimistic about what we're building, where the rest of the world are definitely seeing the downside of it, which I think is needed to keep companies and businesses in check to have that kind of like purview so that they can build in parallel with good and navigating and mitigating the bad too.
mm. I think a lot of it is understanding what is possible and where AI ends and where the human input needs to kind of begin, or even the other way around, where the human bit ends and the AI bit takes over. I think there's a lot of education that needs to happen for anybody that is using AI tools for whatever they're doing, especially where there's too much reliance on AI to do things that it's not designed to do.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny too. Even the Silicon Valley is definitely a bubble within the U.S. and U.S. is different
Hmm.
from because obviously Silicon Valley we're all really bullish and super optimistic about AI and what it's doing. The U.S. is actually not. It's under 40% of like AI optimism. There's much more doom and gloom
Mm,
about AI, what it means. However, you compare that to Asian countries, they're at an 80% optimism rate of like
mm,
AI entry. But it's the same AI. It's the same, not same AI, but same technology, the concept of the technology.
mm.
So it is this kind of like cultural and societally perception, which drives either product adoption or marketing adoption as well, because
Mm,
culture drives consumption.
mm. And just, I think on that point, there's a host of reasons as to why people are against AI and the implications and image creation and deep fakes and all that kind of stuff. But from a economic perspective, in terms of, employment, we've seen huge shifts in, massive layoffs for companies in the last, 2 to 3 years, which is probably as a result a wave following on from the pandemic with the rise of hiring people and then, suddenly these massive layoffs. What is your personal view on, the impact of AI for the workforce in general?
Yeah, I think net it is a massive positive, and I think we are going through the necessary pains of any introduction of any new technology. Like we did it during the Industrial Revolution, when people like had to learn how to upskill and uptool. We did this with just like the general internet, like when people had to go from like manual labor to skilled labor. And then we did this again with like the web uh the .com boom and then all the social media, social networking. It always happens. And then, but then at the end of it, is a creation of new economies and new businesses. And so overall, you're going to create a lot of net new companies and businesses. And the gap between knowledge and ability becomes smaller and smaller. You can reach more people, you can do a lot more. It's going to be up to the people that can use that technology better and more usefully. So for me, like overall, it to me, it should create more businesses because now every person in the side hustle can create a website, an app, a backend that they never could do before. And then that means like there's going to create more markets and more products and more services out there. So it's up to the people that want to do that. Like, the whole creator economy, like creating a podcast, this didn't exist even as a business until technology allowed for people to do so. Now there's independent journalism, there's independent media sources, independent news sources. Those are net new companies and businesses that traditionally didn't exist. You didn't see like marketing companies, what NBC and Fox and BBC wasn't protesting, oh, like we're losing jobs. They just saw a new job creation, a completely new category get created. And then in those categories, you have to have technology, people, and service to service those as well. But it's always going to be a wave of adoption because we are still learning how to use it in general as humans, as a society globally. And so as that kind of adoption happens, you're just going to see waves of like unemployment or shifting from finance, like resources to just like people engaging with different markets too.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything that you've said. I think we're on a new wave, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. But I'm sure that there's lots of positives. What's been the most surprising part of your startup journey so far?
Like my recent startup?
Yeah, of the Hog.
Ooh, I knew it was always rough. I never romanticized kind of like the startup journey because when I jumped to startup, this was where like Google, Facebook, they were all like going crazy like 10, 15 years ago and like free food everywhere. The startups I joined were like underfunded, so I never got free lunch. I'm like, man, I hope someone treats us to happy hour so I can get some food. I'd never romanticized that. So even from that context, the emotional draw and how hard it is to kind of shut it off has been a little bit more surprising than I thought. You just like emotion are just so much more connected to your thing. All right. Even though like I was at a company that like the number 3 hire, it still wasn't like my company, like it still wasn't your thing that you're really connected to, that like you're gonna like ride or die for kind of a thing. And those emotional things, it might just be me. I get emotionally attached to things I care about, like my nonprofit. Like I don't get paid, but it's such an emotional thing for me to be a part of because of people that are dependent on and what you're doing there too. So the emotional balance and realizing that how much of the network around you really helps, that was really surprising because sometimes you think, oh, I'm just gonna keep building, grind towards be great. But then realizing like, man, the network around you, which is I think the beauty of YC and the value of YC is that network of like-minded people going through the kind of same struggle as you, is like way more beneficial. So tougher, but also finding out like where you can actually find help better too.
Amazing. So what are the plans for the Hog for this year? What are you guys hoping to achieve in 2026?
I mean, we have really big aspirations. Like, so we kind of want to become like the Lovable of go-to-market, where people are like creating like one-man product teams, you can one-man growth team. And that's why we think the future is like, that's why I think like, the power of AI is going to be unlocking these lean teams and can achieve more. So our goal right now, obviously, to continue scale, build more customers, and then find new use cases. Like we're so early on that we know we're going to find so many cool new things that our customers are going to take us and pull us towards. Obviously, so our goal is number one is always to grow and continue the trajectory that we're on. And kind of redefine like the future, like marketing and sales.
Amazing. Well, I'd love to have you back on the show next year. So I hope that you will come back and give us an update.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. You've been an amazing guest, and I'm really excited to watch how the Hog grows and continues to build momentum.
Appreciate you too.
That's it for this episode of Tech Startup Stories. Have a story you'd like us to share? or a topic you'd want to cover. Reach out and we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care.